everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. So happy all of you are here. It is a Friday that we're recording this, and I love Fridays because it just feels like, sort of a little breather. We're heading into the weekend where we can have some fun. So I hope you guys are all enjoying your lives and having some fun. I have another fabulous guest, and we were just talking about his location, which is in Mexico, which was the neighbor to my old state, Arizona. And I'm very, very fond of the people and the places in Mexico. But we were talking about fun drinks, and I love that because I love trying lots and lots of good food and cultural food. But let me tell you about Gregorio. So, Gregorio Craig Lewis believes in recovery with all of his heart. Sometimes life happens and things change. This author walked his talk straight into the gutter, living a fairly desperate and upsetting, yet transformative life while homeless until 4 years and 3 months ago. He's now living a new life, truly alive and well in the heart of Mexico. He is the evidence that if you want to get better, do the work, experience the improvements. This is my favorite part of what he says in his bio. And this it just made my heart jump. I love this. So Gregorio is the author of 3 coping skills workshops, and his workbooks are for people like him: the poor, the unwanted, the blamed, the hurt, the labeled, the outcast, and the rejected. And I don't think there's a description in there that any of us at some point in our lives can't relate to. I just think that's a fantastic way to describe it. Gregorio's workbooks are for people like you, the carers, the lovers, the educators, the agents of change, and the healers. Everything you read in his books was learned and earned the hard way. Recovery is some of the hardest work possible. Do it and keep doing it. This is my favorite thing. He says it is our honor to be a part of your kick butt healing journey. Woo! Can I get a woo? Can I get a yeah? Hell yeah. He's also a punk rock writer, a cat lover, and a grower of roses. And I just thought that was super, super cute. I had to add that in there. So, good morning. Oh, how are you?
Good morning, Maureen. Thank you for introducing me in such a lovely way. I'm really grateful to be here with you, and it's a pleasure to experience your energy.
So happy that you're here. And I just feel this like-mindedness and like-spiritedness where all of the listeners are just like us, where we all just want to know how to live a joyful, peaceful life, and all that stuff gets in the way. So here on I Never Knew, we start with those stories where most of us have been, and it's our knee story, and we're down on our knees, and it's like, what can go more wrong right now, and how do I stop this momentum and get out of this thing and make some change? What's your knee story?
I would say that fighting back against every monster that exists that has crossed my path, and doing it with the knowledge that I could lose, and doing it anyways, is my story in an, how do you say it?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, in a phrase, in a something, because the actual story, the facts are terrible,
Mm-hmm.
and they're real, and I live it, and I live it every day. So when you were reading the bio, I remember when I wrote that, and I do stand by that, and I do believe in it. It's funny though, because like hidden within those words is the actual, I guess, secondary truth, which is that, yeah, things are great. I'm kicking butt. Like, I'm a warrior, and I live really well. And every day is difficult in a way that I don't even want to tell people, because it's like people get put off by that. So I have to just kind of live it. and keep going and make my decision each moment to be okay. And I just have to really forgive myself for every moment that I have that I kind of go astray. And the reason why I say all that is because I'm not supposed to be alive. No, I believe like that I was born for a reason. And so spiritually speaking, of course, I'm supposed to be alive, and I am. But according to humans, I'm not. Very funny reality, because when you say something like, I'm not supposed to be here, like, oh, of course you are. Yeah. But we live in multiple realities. And if you're just living in your boring, like accepting of everything is the way it is and this is it reality, then you're missing out. You might have an easy, fun life, but you're actually not really living. And so I chose to really live, and that required me to sacrifice everything I had, which was really nothing to begin with. Because I guess what is my on my knee story and how did I get here today? It's, well, I'm either 49 or 50. Some people don't understand why I would say that, but I realized I don't really know. And that really freaked me out recently, because my birthday was in May and I realized I didn't know. Like, what the heck? But that really is the story of my life, because when I was 14, my parents did something that no human should do to another. And that was that they set me up. And my parents lied, and they purchased a fraudulent diagnosis of schizophrenia from a vulnerable psychiatrist. Actually, years and years of attempting to find someone to do their dirty work for them, to kind of get rid of their child, to shut their child up, and to keep their child from like being taken seriously and being legitimized when he said what they were doing behind closed doors, which was psychologically abusive. Because, you know, when you have a persona to project, to protect a reputation, standing in society, status, when you're involved in a religious community, when you're a corporate lawyer, when people know you and respect you, when you have nice cars and nice things, you can't have your child like going crazy and saying things that people are going to be concerned about. And so what better way to stop that from happening than take your beautiful, smart, creative, like empowered, brilliant kid and purchasing them a diagnosis of schizophrenia and forcing them into treatment for 28 years, where they swallowed approximately 80,000 pills until they found out via their own process of attempting to help themselves heal from whatever was wrong with them, which apparently, as I was told, was mental illness, but in fact, it wasn't. I was able to prove that I was a victim. And how did I do that? Well, in 2013, I was working for the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health as a mental health provider. And while I was working there, I obtained my mental health records from when I was a child. And when I was a child or a teenager, I was a ward of the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, because my parents purchased a diagnosis of schizophrenia for me that was false and fraudulent, and they knew it. And how do I know they knew it? Because in 2013, when I obtained my mental health documents, while at the same time I was a staff trainer, providing CEU level training for psychiatrists and social workers and mental health providers for the Department of Mental Health. Upon obtaining my mental health records, it said that when I was a minor, they had documented that I was being abused and that I never had schizophrenia, and that I was given medication to silence me, and it was all done under legal threat that if they don't do this to hurt me, that they're going to get sued. And so I saw everything in their own handwriting. It was documented by their own people, and the statute of limitations for some of the things that happened to me don't exist, meaning that I had a very serious situation. And well, you can appreciate that was the end of my career, the end of my life as I knew it. I was ultimately able to get off of the psychiatric drugs thanks to a team of psychiatrists who were blown away by the reality and told me, if you don't stop taking these pills, you're never going to get better. Of course, my response to them was, you're crazy. I'm mentally ill. But guess what? By May 1st, 2015, I had been 1 day free of 28 years of constant drugs. And now it's what, July 7th, 2023, 8 years later. And I've not taken a pill since. They came after me. I've been locked up. I've been attacked. I've been smeared. I've been blacklisted. I've been threatened. I've been given ultimatums. I've been blackmailed by everybody. I mean, collectively, it's like what I just stated, that whole list. I mean, everybody, not like everyone, like how we stay in the States. We talk in absolutes. I just mean by all bunch of people who know me, who could have helped me and should have been there for me, who had a job to do, who had ethical responsibility, or were a friend or a family member. So I mean everybody that I kind of knew, not everyone in the whole world, because there's 7 billion of them. And
Yeah.
so ultimately, I lost everything I barely had. And then my career was ruined. I lost my home, my friends, all my stuff, and my mind. And so by 2018, I left the country. I became homeless, not by my own doing. I was punished financially. And I left the country, and I bought a one-way ticket to Paris, France. And I spent the next year plus traveling back and forth with nothing, giving mental health recovery workshop professionally anywhere I could find an agency that would pay me, and then anywhere I could find someone who would host me, even if I wasn't getting paid. And then I gave trauma recovery talks throughout almost the entirety of Europe, from Kharkiv, Ukraine, to Istanbul, to Athens, Greece, to Pristina, Kosovo, to Vienna, Austria, to even Dublin, where I was a lecturer at Dublin City University. So this is what I did. And then I moved to Mexico 4 years and 3 months ago, and I started a new life right before the pandemic. And I got kind of stuck because of the pandemic, and now I live here. And I just try my very best every day to be okay. I'm not really okay, just to be honest with you,
Yeah.
but I have to be. And so here we are. And in a nutshell, that's why I'm talking to you. That's why this book exists. With the cat ate some of the corner. And like you, the dog knows, the cats know. And that's
I agree. I'm all about any of the animals because they're so innately loving and pure, and they don't have
yeah.
any agenda. So that's so much to unpack, and I want to sort of go back a little bit. So they basically, when you're 14, because I just took in my grandson at 14, we have guardianship, and this was over a year and a half ago, and such a delicate age to have that reality for you. And like, I can't even imagine. So did they take you away and they locked you up in mental facilities, and no one explained to you why that happened?
They documented that I wasn't sick. I mean, I can't even like make this stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you?
My admission documents from April 13th, 1988 say that I'm not symptomatic. It says that I have no psychosis.
Why did they do that? The ultimate question is, why would a parent want to just basically get rid of their child? What was it that was happening or you were doing that was bringing shame, or whatever reasons they had?
You'd have to ask them that question.
Yeah.
Uh, but according to their friends and according to the therapists that I was meeting with in 1986, my parents were doctor shopping, which is a term that I was not familiar with until 2013 when I obtained those medical records. And I was like, oh my God, I need to find out what really happened to me. And so I looked on the internet, and I ended up calling a therapist who was meeting with me in 1986. And I left him a voicemail, and he called me back, and he said, I can't believe you're alive. And I understand that you want to know your story. So if you'd like to come in and meet with me for free, come do it, and I'll tell you what you need to know. And so the girl I was with at the time and we drove there, and he told me to my face, your parents set you up. He said, your parents were looking for a mental health provider who would agree with them that you were sick. And I told them, much like all the other people before me and those after me, until they found someone to agree with them, they probably paid them, that your parents were dysfunctional and needed mental health care, and you were reacting to their behavior. And then I went out to the car after the appointment, and they came running out. And he said, hey, do you remember this woman named so-and-so? I said, yeah. He said, well, I married her about 10 years ago or longer. Do you want to talk with her? And I said, yeah. Now, who this woman was my mother's best friend during the time period when they were doing this to me. And in fact, this woman actually went with her to visit me in one of the facilities. And so she told me that, I'm sorry, your mother did this to you. She was sick. We tried to protect you. This is what we did to try to help you. And she threatened people. And she ended our friendship the moment I spoke up about this. And that's her story. You were a
Wow.
victim. You were not sick. And somehow your parents were very sick. And that's what happened. There's a
So,
word, sorry, there's a term for what they did. It's called Munchausen's syndrome by proxy.
mhm.
And now it's known as fictitious disorder imposed upon another.
Yeah, there's actually a Netflix documentary right now about Take Care of Maya, where a mother was accused of that and she actually didn't do it. And they tend to throw this term out often. And then in cases like yours, they should have recognized it and didn't. Now, that moment when you talk to that therapist and his wife, which I think everything is aligned for us to finally know the truth, was it, I mean, obviously it had to be devastating, but was it also sort of validating for you to say, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew the truth, and now others know the truth. What was your feeling on that?
I was drugged, and so I never knew my feelings.
Mm,
Once I was off the drugs, I can tell you that I was blown away, and I'm still blown away, and I'm in shock to this day. The best answer I can give you is what my therapist said at the time, which she said was, she still helps me to this day. She said, we always knew you weren't sick. Like, this is the woman who started working with me in 2006, like 8 years before I got the documents. We always knew something was wrong and it wasn't you. So
there's some justification there, but still not enough. And the amazing thing to me is when I look at the man in front of me, the adult man in front of me, you just 8 years. It's only been 8 years of recovering from being medicated for so many years. So is everything kind of coming to light and reality for you? And that's the daily struggle, is doing this work, this inner work.
the biggest problem I have was money because, like, I mean, my career was taken from me. I was given ultimatums to be quiet by my family and others or else. And I definitely lost everything. And it wasn't like I just like made a bad decision and didn't pay my bills and didn't do things right. No,
Yeah.
I was helped down, straight up. I was helped down by people whose job it is to help people up. Uh,
Mm.
Not just like my family's responsibility to love their child. They also helped me down. But after 28 years of being labeled and diagnosed and self-identifying, it's hard to find someone who's going to listen to you. And so now it's 8 years later, and a lot of people listen to me. I have a lot of, I don't like the word haters. That's not my word to use, but a lot of people don't care for me because I represent something that a lot of people don't want to believe. I mean, think about it. How many people out there know that they were hurt when they were young and they ended up getting drugged and then they ended up getting hooked on pills, and then those pills didn't make them better. They just kept them like, I don't know, something. They still have their
Yeah.
episodes. What does that tell you about them?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people, yeah.
I agree with the medication. And I think it does help some people, but I don't think long term, I don't think it's a good idea. And, nobody likes when the dark comes to light. And that's why I do this podcast. It's why I've written my books. Um, you bring up things that happen in your childhood or with people who have wronged you, and there's a fear there of exposing them, and it's our job to be brave, and you're being brave. Why were they threatened? Why was your job taken from you? Because that department was covering as well?
Okay. In 2015, I was still working under a DMH contract. And I reported that my coworker was using his role to get his sexual gratification at the expense of recent rape survivors inside a locked hospital, as was my legal requirement as a mandated reporter. And so that company I worked for covered it up and they went after me. It was massive retaliation. And when I called the the legal department of the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, their response, among other things, was to ask me if I was taking my medication. And I realized in that moment that they already knew very well who I was because I worked for them. I mean, you can still look me up now. I'm on their website 10 years later as like someone that they were honoring on video. Like I was a well-known actor in the community. I was a well-known player in the mental health recovery world. I'm still well-known. You can look me up on the internet 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But they knew that you can't have this guy telling this truth because there's liability here. This is a story that proves that this happened. He can back this up because of us, right? So they killed two birds with the same stone.
Yeah, definitely. Because they didn't want that exposure. And so it was easier for them to continue the narrative of you having a mental illness and not being on your medication. I mean, they had all the medical records that were false to back it up. And so, the thing that I just was thinking as you were speaking is you work to help others. So you've created these workbooks for others. And I want to say this, listeners, as a life coach and many of my friends in the health and wellness industry, we're just normal humans who have our own stuff. And yet, all that we have been through, we bring forth to help others. And I think in this case with Gregorio, you help others to cope. But I love your honesty when you say, but I'm not okay. I'm not always okay. And as a mental health provider, isn't it incredible that sometimes we don't even know much about ourselves as much as we're good at helping others look deep inside? We aren't always great at doing all of the work. So, talk to me about how you teach people coping skills and how you utilize it yourself in your recovery.
Thank you. I haven't really had a job in a long time. I live this life. I walk this talk. The books I had authored back years ago are still used, and they're used to this day as support groups. And the new books I've authored, in addition to the one I've told you about, are even to this day used by people around the world. And I know that. So how do I teach others? I think because I'm very public and I speak my truth without fear, and I've done so defiantly in the face of the authority and the power that is respected in our country, and I've done so unflinchingly, and I've done so confidently, naming people and naming organizations with a big smile on my face. And I named my new book after myself just because I wanted to make it easy for everyone to know that who I was and that I was here and that I was alive and my story is legitimate and I am real. And that unless anyone has anything to say about it, which they don't because they can't, I just get to smile and walk my talk and live my life and talk about cats and growing flowers and eating food that is new to me because I live in a Pueblo with pre-Hispanic food and all sorts of amazing things that's how I teach people, I think, by living my path, walking my honest truth, engaging in my spiritual journey, not hiding who I am or what's going on with me and who hurt me, and not denying the truth that I could drop dead right now because I'm halfway broken. Like I would say I'm 51% okay, and that's good enough for me. And if anyone else out there is 51% or even 50.01%, that's the lesson I want you to take from this conversation right now. If you're at the very minimum 50.01%, if you know anything about math, which turned out to be my favorite class in college, then you know you're closer to 100 than you are to zero. And that means you win. That means you've already won. That means you're in control. That means no one can take anything from you that you don't let them. And if they do, you can do it again or do it better or do it differently. And that The world is yours and your life is yours. And if you die tomorrow, so what? Like, choose this moment right now to be yours. And if, look at someone like myself who does not give a you know what, even though I care very, very much, and be that person and be you and let the universe take you wherever you need to go. That's the lesson that I want people to take from me in my books.
I just love that. And I truly believe, as I tell new coaching clients, when they call for our first call, I always say you have to be so tired of your shit that you're ready for change. And I think it's so cathartic that the things that we fear the most is the things that heal us best. I really believe that exposing things that happen to us and telling our story without shame and being able to let it go and then get feedback from others is so healing. When we're paying that forward, it's paying actually ourselves back. What do you think?
Excuse me, I had a friend who just knocked on my door, so I had to just tell him to go away. Excuse me. Well, what I can say is this. I'm an alien. Like, I know that I'm not just a normal human person. And so the best thing I can do is give of myself from deep in my heart and hope that others can connect with that in a way that benefits their lives. And if it does, then I'm already a success. And if I can turn that into earning money that allows me to sustain my life and live a better reality, then that's great. I speak with lots of people like yourself, like beautiful, vivacious, amazing, like connected people, and you're always speaking about your coaching clients. And I just wanted to say, I don't have any, and I really would like to have some because I know how to look you in the eye and tell you what you don't want to hear, but do it in such a way that just maybe you'll know that I'm telling you something that you really want to know. And I know this because this is my life journey. And it's what I do in my daily life, whether I'm getting paid for it or not. So I know I'm not a normal person, even amongst uh, uh, communities of oddballs and weirdos and survivors and, you know, different kind of folks. I know I'm way beyond that because of how could I not be based on what you heard from me in the first when I shared
Yeah.
my story. So
But
that's where I'm at.
who wants normal? I don't want normal. I'm so far from normal. I'm so proud of being so far from normal now that, the reason that I went into life coaching was because it was so different from therapy and counseling. And no disrespect to them, but I'm saying the regulated way to be a therapist, or the regulated way to be a counselor, which insurance and government regulate, versus the freedom of life coaching to be able to say, man, I went through all of this stuff and I went through it for a reason. I should be able to pay this forward to others. And it's more effective to sit across from Gregorio and say, damn, I went through this traumatic thing. I don't understand why my parents did this. I don't understand why everyone seemed to have come against me. I lost everything. And you bring that forward, like you said. And our listeners, if anyone wants to have conversations with Gregorio and get some help and get those workbooks, we're definitely going to connect you. But the one thing, Gregorio, that I'm the most impressed with about you is in the beginning when you're telling your knee story, losing everything and then still being able to go to Paris and all these countries. You were doing something in your mind like I had nothing. I was just figuring out how to hop from here to there and do some talks with all I knew was my story. That, my friend, right there is testimony, right, for your resilience and your ability to do something that most of us who live these people have these lives that don't have a lot of turmoil. They don't travel to Europe and do talks. They're not giving up everything they own and just hopping on a plane to Paris and figuring out their next meal in the next 5 minutes. That's the beauty of, I think, my guests and people that I've known who've been through so much. difficulties and these experiences in life is the resilience factor. Do you remember how resilient you are? Do you, when you go in those moments of, man, I'm not okay, do you go back? I'm doing a life coaching right now. I just
No,
noticed.
it's okay. Do it.
I fell right into the life coaching mode. But
Do
this
it.
is, if you were my client, this is exactly what I would say is when you start going down that rabbit hole of feeling that things are not where they need to be for me financially, abundant wise, I want you to go back to what I just said, which is your bravery, courage, resilience in the face of all of that is really who you are. The bank account is not who you are. The amount of clients you have is not who you are. Who you are is who you have lived as an example as a human to others.
Look, I know everything that you just said is true. Okay. And there are details of what I have to go through to be okay that are beyond the pale. And I can sit here and smile and talk about it. But just because I'm smiling doesn't mean it's not still very real.
Sure.
And that's the difference between me and perhaps a lot of people like me, that I don't have the luxury to just like live in that world where the bank account doesn't matter. Well, actually, yes, it does. When you have nothing and no way to earn money and no help, and you have to eat out of trash barrels and have sex for money and steal if necessary to get by, then the bank account does matter. No matter how good you are at helping other people, no matter how good you are at writing, even though I can't really read, I have the reading skills of a sixth grader or less, but I write books that are very successful. The bank account does matter a lot. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't actually understand. I think a lot of people in the recovery and the healing communities actually say what you say, and it's true, because most people don't have a situation perhaps when they're doing this kind of work and living this kind of life where they actually have been choked to death and somehow they just didn't die. So I just want to respect myself here and say all those things you said are true, but I struggle for my basic needs, not my basic wants, needs. And that's a whole different reality that I bring to the table. So a lot of people don't really care for me, and the fact that I'm always pushing my work. Please buy my books. Please do this, because I actually need help. It's not like I'm trying to, not like I have stability and this is the money I make after I already had stability and all this. No, my stability is doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So I hope you can interpret what I just said with deep respect, but it is the reality that I live.
No,
And all of,
100%. And but I want to clarify what I said. I want to clarify. It is not that a bank account doesn't matter. That is our survival. Money is our survival. Abundance is our survival. Let me clarify, but it's not our identity. And the problem is, in this world, the more money you have, the more respect you have, and the more power you have. And that is where I'm clarifying that
Thank
we
you.
we have to validate ourselves, and it isn't based on our bank account. But yes, we absolutely need to survive. That's human nature. The first thing our instincts do is survival. But what I was saying was, we forget to pat ourselves on the back. We forget to say, damn, I made it through this thing. I am freaking amazing. And if I did it before, I can do it again. And that's what I wanted to clarify.
And that's why the therapist who I first met with in 2006, she always had this phrase that I tattooed on me. Says, you don't unlearn progress. You don't unlearn progress. And what you just said is true. If you've done it once, then you can do it again. In my case, I never did it once, so I'm doing it for the first time. And it's not about the status. Not about the.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a little bit of cough.
Oh no, you're okay.
Not about the status and all the stuff like that. But if you really, and if people, if society wanted me to be as helpful and as giving and as useful as I would want to be, that would be achieved if I wasn't always chasing the dollar to be able to have my basic needs met, because I'd be able to invest myself full time in doing the things that I love to do, which is sharing of my wisdom to help others.
Well, and I do love that you say that. And there are some things that I have learned by, talking to other spiritual people and talking to people who finance is their specialty. And the one thing that I've learned is we have a relationship with money. And some of us have great relationships, just like we have great marriages. And some of us have really crappy relationships with money based on what our programming was about money. If you lived in lack, you believe that you're chasing the almighty dollar is inevitable until, and this is the thing that I've kind of, because I've been in that place. I've been in that place where I couldn't make the mortgage and I had to work 2 jobs. I had to work a waitressing job at night to pay the mortgage as a single mother to keep a home for my children. I've been there. You're not looking at someone who's like, I've always had money. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college. So I had to figure that out. Got married at 18 and in a domestic violence, alcoholic husband. So my life's not been easy, but I can tell you this. My daughter is the one that said, Mom, you have a bad relationship with money. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she said, you always think that money is the way you're going to be happy, and money is the thing you're always chasing. You have to change that mindset to where I don't focus on needing the money if my daily needs are met. That's a different thing, right? I did what I could to make sure my children's basic needs were met. But abundance above survival is, I have to believe I deserve it. I have to believe I'm worthy of it. And I have to manifest and attract it, right? Law of attraction is, if I believe it, it will come. And I just have to stay in a place of non-limiting beliefs that it will come for me. And so that's sort of my little soapbox moment about money, because we are a society who validates based on the amount of money you have, and ourselves. We literally look at our identity as how much money we have, and that's our worth. What do you think about that?
I respect your journey, and I'm grateful that you shared it. And everyone has everyone has an experience like that, or everyone has some experience that has really interfered with their happiness in some way. Um, money does not define me. It doesn't even validate me. It doesn't even make me happy. It actually puts food in my mouth and keeps a roof over my head, and it gives me the chance to do what I'm doing right now with you today. One thing about my experience and my relationship with money is that my parents, did have money. I thought I had tissues here. Excuse me. All right.
No worries.
I'm a street kid. You have to bear with me.
Yeah.
My parents did have money, and so they spent about $3 million to subjugate me. And so I started this life as a grown adult, coming from knowing that 3 million US dollars were spent to hurt me, and I couldn't get a penny. I couldn't get help to fix myself. So I definitely fixed myself, and on my own hard work, my own struggle, and I've earned the respect of many people. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't earn that respect. And I'm actually living the way I am right now and doing as good as I am, in part because so many people heard this story that I'm sharing with you today, and they contact me and they say, I want to help you. Sometimes I received a donation for $1,000, sometimes for 500. It happens on a regular basis. Sometimes it's really odd, but people continue to do that. It's been 8 years since I've come out with this story, and I've just been very public about it. So I figured, if I'm going to have all these things happen to me, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to do the very thing I'm not supposed to do, which is just be happy, be free, and live. And I do believe in abundance, and I do know that everything's going to be okay, but maybe it won't be. maybe I'll just die tomorrow. It's really something out of my control. But what is in my control is what I do in this moment, and how I try to help myself and help others, and be nice to the cats, and be nice to my neighbors, and be nice to people if I can, do something for them and give of myself, and know that my story and my journey and my experience can help make someone else's life better, and hope that I can successfully do that, and also live a decently good, stable life at the same time, because I already know what it means to be happy with nothing. And living in Mexico has helped me find happiness in a way that that we can't really easily find back in the United States, because in the United States, our culturalist society really bases, like what you said, like your life is who you are, what you have, and your money. And here that also exists as truth, but 2/3 of the country is not wealthy. It's a different dynamic than back north of the border. So many people have to work hard to have their basic needs met on a daily basis, and they find happiness in that struggle. So I am with them. We call those people the banda, the people who are working hard every day, the guy who collects the trash, the woman who makes the bracelets, the person who sells the sandwiches, the person who sells the tamales. This is the people. These are my people, and that's who I'm with. So I already know happiness and acceptance as a result. So I'll be okay.
I love that. And that I don't even want to add anything more to that as we end there. My favorite thing that you said, and it may be your podcast title and it may not, but my favorite thing you said was, I speak my truth defiantly without fear. And listeners, that's really the thing we're taking away here, is speak your truth defiantly without fear. And I love that, Gregorio, you're coming back. You're coming back stronger than ever. You're taking back what was taken from you. And you're right. It's the people every day that are the kindest, that are working the hardest, and that don't have this overabundance of money. It doesn't matter, because they have an overabundance of kindness and love. And that is what we do here on I Never Knew. Is all that other stuff is minutia and it's human stuff, but in the end, what you take with you is love and kindness, and that's the legacy you leave. So thank you so much, guys. Go online. Is your book available on Amazon?
I ask that you go to my website, because Amazon takes all the money. Okay, so this is one of my books, the Craig Lewis Guide to Survive the Impossible.
What's your website?
Oh, pardon me, excuse me.
You're okay.
It's sanityisafulltimejob.org.
Sanity is a full-time job.org. What a cool name.
This is another one of my books. It's an anthology of 20 punk rockers from around the world, sharing their lived experience, their personal stories of surviving, recovering from trauma, addiction, mental health, poverty. There's writers from all over the world. This is volume 2. I have volume 1 as well, with 27 stories. This is another book that I recently published. The original peer support, recovery, and coping skills workbook and curriculum. And then I have other books as well. Actually, I don't have them in front of me, but I have another workbook similar to this called Better Days, a mental health recovery workbook, and that's available in 8 languages: Spanish, French, Dutch,
that's fantastic. French. So guys, listeners, you know that Gregorio had his own experience with mental health struggles, and he also was a professional in the mental health field. So those workbooks are going to come in very handy to help you work through whatever you're going through. I love it. The punk rock book, my grandson, I think, would just absolutely love that, because he's all about the punk rock and the moshing and all that fun stuff. So we will end it for today. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed Gregorio's story and got some inspiration that no matter what you're going through, you can make it too, and you can be brave and courageous and resilient, such as Gregorio. And so I love you all for listening today. Don't forget to get a hold of me at lifecoachmaureen.com if you need coaching, or you want to connect with any of my guests, or you want to be a guest. And don't forget my books, My Dog is More Enlightened Than I Am, and My Dog is My Relationship Coach on Amazon, and our doggy boutique at mydogiseverything.net. Love you all for listening. Do not forget to go do those 5-star reviews. Share this, build the community, and love you all until next week. Have a fantastic week, and we are out of here. Say bye, Gregorio.
Adios. Abrazo fuerte. Gracias. Bye bye. Thank you,
Love it.
Maureen.
Mwah.